Hello everybody, it's Tarun. Welcome to your 13th tutorial in the HTML course. In this tutorial, I'll start with the next unit, which is tables. So before we launch into the markup for tables, let's check in with our progress, which we have done so far. We have covered a lot of syllabus for HTML. We have covered how to establish the basic structure of an HTML document, how to mark up text to give it meaning and structure, how to make links, and how to embed images on the page. This unit and the next unit forms describe the markup for specialized content that you might not have a need for right away. If you are getting excited about making your web pages look good, then I'll suggest that after completing the course, you move forward to the CSS course, which has also been taught by me. So now I'll tell you what I'll cover in this unit. In this unit, I'll cover how tables are used, basic table structure, the importance of headers, spanning rows and columns, cell padding and spacing, and making tables accessible. So we'll start out by reviewing how tables should be used, and then learn the elements used to create them with markup. Remember, this is an HTML unit. So we'll be focusing only on the markup that structures the content into tables, and here we will not be concerned about how the tables look. Like any web content, the appearance of tables should be or can be handled by style sheets, which you'll learn in the CSS course. So without wasting time, let's start with the first topic of this unit, which is how tables are used. HTML tables were created for instances when you need to add tabular material into a web page. Tables may be used to organize calendars, schedules, statistics, or other types of information in the figure that I'll show you. But note that the data does not necessarily mean numbers. A table cell may contain any sort of information, including numbers, and even images and multimedia objects. Now I'll show you some examples of tables. Okay, so here you can see that this is one table, it is another. So in visual browsers, the arrangement of data in rows and columns give readers an instant understanding of relationships between data cells and their respective header labels. But keep in mind that whenever you are creating tables, however, that some readers will be hearing your data read aloud with a screen reader or reading braille output. So later in this unit, we'll discuss about how you can take to make table content accessible to users who don't have the benefit of visual presentation. In the days before style sheets, tables were the only option for creating multi-column layouts or controlling alignment and white spaces. Layout tables, particularly the complex nested table arrangements that were once standard web design fare, have gone the way, but this unit focuses on HTML tables as they are intended to be used. So now let's talk about the minimal table structure. Okay, as I have told you, how does a table look like? So let me just show you the syntax. Okay, first of all, we'll write a tag named table, and it also needs a closing tag. Okay, and then we'll write inside it. Okay, and for a table row, we have a tag tr, and it also needs closing. And for table heading, we are having th. Okay, and for table data, we have td. Okay, so what we don't see here is that how we'll define the column elements. So let me just tell you that the number of columns in a table is determined the number of cells in each row. So this is one of the things that make HTML tables potentially tricky. Rows are easy. If you want the table to have 3 rows, then you need to use 3 tr tags. Okay. Columns are different. For a table with 4 columns, you need to make sure that every row, okay. So what I mean to say that inside this tr, we should have, if I want to make a table of 3 by 4, which means 3 rows, 4 columns. For 4 columns, I need to use td or th elements 4 times inside the tr, inside one tr. So let me just show you an example of a table. Okay, so this is a table. Here the table starts, then the first row, and it has 3 columns inside it. Then second row, it also has 3 columns. Third row, it also has 3 columns. So this table is 3 by 3. So if I save it, and now let's see what happens if I run it. So you can see that it has made us a 3 by 3 table. So remember, all the content must go in cells, that is within TD or TH elements. You can put any content in a cell, text, graphic, or even another table. The start and end table tags are used to identify the beginning and end of tabular material. The table element may directly contain only some number of row elements. The only thing that can go in the TR element is some number of TD or TH elements. In other words, there may be no text content within the table and TR elements that isn't contained within a TD or TH. So let's move forward. Okay, just wait. So in this table shows how the table would look in a simple web page as displayed in default by a browser. I know that it is not exciting or so fun to work with, but you can make it exciting by using CSS. Okay. Now I'll tell you something about advanced table elements. The table which we used earlier in the last part has been now stripped down to its essentials to make its structure clear while you learn how tables work. Okay. So it is worth nothing, but there are other table elements and attributes that offer more complex semantic descriptions and improve the accessibility of tabular content. A thoroughly marked up version of the sample table might look like this. Okay. So in here, first of all, I have added a caption to the table. Okay. First of all, I will tell you about row group elements. Okay. You can describe rows or group of rows belonging to a header, footer, or a body of table using the T head, T foot, or T body elements. Okay. So here you can see that this is your one row. Okay. And it is another inside the T body. Some users may repeat the header and footer rows on tables that span multiple pages. Authors may also use these elements to apply styles to various regions of table. So now we'll talk about column group elements. Columns may be identified with col element, okay, col element, or put into the group using col group. Okay, so this is col group. This is useful for adding semantic context to information in columns and may be used to calculate the width of tables more quickly. Notice that there is no content in the column elements. It just describes the column before the actual table data begins. Okay, so as you can see here, in this column group, there is no data. It just describes the table before the table data begins. So now let's talk about the accessibility features of this table. Accessibility features such as captions for providing description of the table content and the scope and headers attribute, okay, for explicitly connecting headers with their respective content are discussed later in this unit. So let's move forward to the next head topic, which is table headers. So as you can see in the table which I have created here, okay, this table, the text markup as headers, th elements, is displayed differently from other cells. Okay, so here in th I have written menu item, calories and fat in grams. So here you can see that it is different than other elements of that table. The table headers are important because they provide information about the cells in a row or column they precede. The th element may be handled differently than td elements by alternative browsing devices. For example, screen readers may read the header aloud before each data cell. Okay. In this way, they are a key tool for making table content accessible. Don't try to fake headers by formatting a row of td elements differently than the rest of the table. And conversely, don't avoid using th elements because of their default rendering, which is bold and centered. Mark up the header semantically and change the presentation later with a style. Okay. So we'll move forward to the next topic, which is spanning cells. One fundamental feature of table structure is cell spanning, which is the stretching of a cell to cover several rows or columns. Spanning cells allows you to create a complex table structure, but it has a side effect of making that markup a little more difficult to keep track of. You can make a header or data cell span by adding the col span or row span attributes, as we'll discuss them next. So first of all, we'll see about the col span attribute. Okay. The col span attribute, which stands for column spans, created with the col span attribute in the td or th element, stretches a cell to the right to span over the subsequent columns. So let me show you it with an example. Okay, so here is my table. In the first row, I have column spanned the first column. Okay, so it will go from first column to the second column. So let me just show you what I am talking. So here you can see that your column, first column, goes over the first column and second column in the first row. So the th for the column that was spanned over is no longer in the source. The cell with the column span stands for it. Every row should have same number of cells or equivalent column span values. Okay. So moving forward, we'll now talk about row spans. Row spans are created with ROW span. Okay. Which works just like column spans, but they cause the cell to span downward over several rows. So let me just show you the example. Okay, so here you can see that the td elements for the cell that were spanned over the first cell in the remaining rows do not appear in the source. The row span of 3 implies cells for the subsequent 2 rows, so no td elements are needed. Okay. Now let's see the next topic, which is table accessibility. As a web designer, it is important that you always keep in mind how your site's content is going to be used by non-sighted visitors. It is especially challenging to make sense of tabular material using a screen reader, but there are measures that you can take to improve the experience and make your content more understandable. So first of all, we'll talk about describing the table content. The first step is to simply provide a description of your table contents and perhaps the way it is structured if it is out of the ordinary. So we can use the caption element to give a table a title or a brief description that displays next to the table. You can use it to describe the table contents or provide hints on how it is structured. When used, the caption element must be the first thing within the table element, as shown in the example. Okay, so let me save it and run it for you. So here you can see that the table nutritional information has a caption calorie and fat content. Okay, so this caption is displayed above the table by default, and although you can use style sheet properties, which is caption side, to move it below the table. For longer description, you could consider putting the table in a figure element and using the fig caption element for the description. So now let's move to the next topic, which is connecting cells and headers. We discussed headers briefly as a straightforward method for improving the accessibility of table content. But sometimes it may be difficult to know which header applies to which cells. For example, header may be at the left or right edge of a row rather than at the top of a column. And although it may be easy for sighted users to understand a table structure at the first sight, for some users hearing the data as a text, the overall organization may not be clear. So HTML4 introduces a few attributes that allows authors to explicitly associate headers and their respective content. So first attribute we'll talk about is scope. Okay, the attribute is scope. The scope attribute associates a table header with the row, column, group of rows, or column group in which it appears using the values row, column, row group, or col group respectively. Okay, so in the example which I am going to show you, it uses the scope attribute to declare that a header cell applies to the current row. Okay, so here you can see that first of all let me create a table. It is, I missed the table. Okay, so let me show you now. Okay, so the next attribute is headers. For really complicated tables in which scope is not sufficient to associate a table data cell with its respective header, such as when the table contains multiple spanned cells, the headers attribute is used in the TD element to explicitly tie it to a headers ID value. So in this example which I am going to show you, the cell content 0.38. Okay, just let me show you. The cell content 0.38 is tied to another header diameter measured in ergs. Okay, so if I save it, let me run it. Okay, so this section is obviously only the tip of the iceberg, as you can say, of table accessibility. In-depth instruction on authorizing accessible tables is beyond the scope of this course. Okay, so if you like to learn more, I recommend creating accessible tables at WebAIM. Okay, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I suggest that if you want to understand accessible tables more, so you can go ahead and look at this website. Okay, so now this was all in this unit. Okay, so in the next tutorial I'll start with next unit, which is forms, and as I did with every unit, I have also attached some questions, so you can go ahead and practice them. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.